Where do I even begin? Well, let's start with the beginning. Etika did not kill himself because of mental illness. He did so because loneliness made him fall into suicidal depression. This man was outcasted and treated like a menace to be thrown away by so many people, including his friends. If he wasn't abandoned, it wouldn't have been clearly mentioned in his last video. Etika was constantly misunderstood, gaslit, and treated like a crazy wacko. But he was not a crazy wacko. His outbursts were not predicated substantively on mental illness. In other words, his outbursts did not have mental illness at their root, even if some mental problems went in tandem with his psychology and approach. But so many people straight up discarded what he was saying simply because his ideas are not compatible with the stupid worldview that human beings have reduced themselves to, and because of Etika's different way of expressing them. Make no mistake though, a lot of what Etika was saying is true. So understanding what he was saying and why he was gaslit by others into shutting up, whether unknowingly or knowingly, subsequently understanding the truth of what was being told by him and why we shouldn't gaslight truth tellers is very important. When someone speaks the truth, even if they have tangential psychological quirks, don't respond to what they are saying solely by telling them to seek medical help. Stuff like therapy can help, but if you are going to reduce everything that they are saying to seek help, bro, you fail to receive a very important and fundamental message when there is one. He got the Connor Murphy treatment. It would have been great if Etika approached this sad situation in a similar way Connor did. I do not agree with Connor 100% though, which is normal. All three of us are very similar, and I will tell you what I really mean. Desmond Amofah is a person that I rarely see. During his outbursts that befuddled a lot of people, his energy was astonishing. Etika was challenging a lot of social norms and critiquing many things. There was a degree of edginess in his speech, but at the same time, he was not hateful. He was outspoken, full of life, and free, talking from the very core of his being, like a character that many people admire and read about in all kinds of stories, although many of them do not apply said values in our world. And not only that, but when people want to apply these values, they are often ridiculed and stopped. A lot of people misunderstood him, but it's understandable why they did so. Etika was tapping into a rare and heroic mind space, therefore the masses did not understand it. But let's make this into more of a story. It was 2019, and I don't remember exactly when, but I saw on the internet some news about Etika. I didn't know what was going on, but after doing some searching, apparently, it wasn't the first time something like that had happened. I was curious, so I started looking at his Twitter, recent videos, and stuff about him. At that time I was after a very difficult period in my life. Without getting too much into detail, my mind and body were not at their best. Let's just say that suicide was on my mind during that very difficult period. I was better by the time these things with Etika happened, but my state was still precarious. Between looking at Etika's Twitter, his recent streams, and events he was a part of at that time, I felt this fire welling up inside of me. This power, this courage, the fighting spirit that gets ignited when you fight side by side with a comrade. By the way, this is Grammarly. So if you wonder what this, highlight thing is, it's an extension that corrects grammar and shit. The fighting spirit, yeah. I wanted to say not sponsored, but it pisses me off that I even have to say that. Side by side with the camera, okay. That is what I felt. That I felt weakness being expelled right out of me. My power level increasing, my spiritual power rising, going Super Saiyan God. I was so intrigued with Etika and mesmerized. Up until that point, I knew of him and watched his stuff from time to time. I knew of his potential, but Etika was never as interesting to me as he was in those moments. When so many people turned around and walked away from him, I was drawn to Etika. for the same reasons that they left. I could feel something deeper happening with him, something far more beautiful compared to how it was seen by others. Watching him was like unlocking a Saiyan transformation that I cannot truly convey through words. It was magical, and it still is. It was a spiritual experience. It was the unique experience of seeing someone that is like you, a kindred spirit, someone you can connect to on a deeper level and become comrades for life. What he was saying made sense. To many individuals, he was rambling, incoherent, manic stuff. But the topics he touched on, like non-duality, being more than your body, courage, the open-ended nature of reality, and more, are very substantive. The things he said about the shallowness of today's society, and the whimsical and energetic way he conveyed everything truly meant that he was free. He was doing all of this in a glorious, free-spirited flair. Shonen-like, but it didn't feel like vainglory. Do you know how some people make the rooms they are in overflow with love and courage? That is how I felt toward Desmond. When he said, "If I touched you right now, you would power up too," I felt that. I was powering up just by listening to him. He was free of norms, full of conviction, yet never forsaking the love, and 100% honest, with no filter. I was inspired and in awe. I was like, whoa, Etika, I didn't know you had it in you. Is there actually someone like this in the world? Asking myself rhetorically. I also laughed copiously. I wasn't laughing at him though, but with him, because although he was tackling very important topics, he was still funny while doing so. It was an amazing experience filled with ecstasy and exploration, but not everyone felt the same as me. Between the surface level commentary channels making videos about him, giving surface level commentary and not understanding what he was trying to say, hordes of idiots misinterpreting him, profiting off him, Keemstar, there were also his friends, which abandoned him. What do I mean? Etika said, "Now I have nobody." Desmond decided to go because he felt alone. There's no mistaking it. If you have doubts about what I'm saying, then watch his last video again. Oh my god. You know, I'm not in the best mental state right now. I dropped my mouse and... yeah, that was the sound that you just heard. But yeah, like... there are other things that are happening to me right now. Yeah, let's say I'm a bit affected right now, but we'll go on. Yeah. It was clearly stated by him that he was not suicidal before, as in before the abandonment and during the outbursts. It makes sense. When someone is overflowing with passion, even when seeming or actually being unwell, that doesn't mean said individual necessarily wants to commit suicide. But the aftermath came, and then he felt a different kind of pain. Those who know what it feels like to be outcasted, alone, misunderstood, regretful, self-loathing, pushed into a corner, can understand that feeling. Those who know what it's like to be forsaken by your loved ones can understand that feeling. The self-loathing, regret, and probably even the personal knowledge that people kept being superficial, despite his actions which were meant to wake people up. Wake people up is meant here in a deeper way than how many charlatans we see nowadays use the expression. These things suck a lot, being thrown away like you never even mattered. There's more. I've even seen some of his friends talk shit about him while all of this ensued. By all of this, I mean the outbursts. I've seen other things too, but they won't be mentioned by me now. Not making stuff up. If you know where to look, you could see what I'm talking about. The whole thing was pretty public and blatant. I don't want to drop names. I don't want to make this into a blaming game. They are ignorant. Human nature is permeated by ignorance. They also had problems of their own, as we all do. They have their own lives to live. They also didn't know what they were doing when talking smack. They didn't understand him, but I want to be understanding of them. I'm not doing this for drama. The purpose of this is to understand something, so we should be understanding of them too. However, they should also understand his message. For this is a message that, although inculcated with anger at first, eventually surpassed these resentments, only to become its original self, a letter from the heart. A letter I wrote many times before in different forms but never published it. And no matter who says what, I know this letter is truthful, just as I know that the sky is blue. Now I'll go back to addressing one point of this video. If someone would have been truly there for him, Etika wouldn't have felt that he had nobody. Etika is a man that puts so much importance on relationships with others. You have to understand something. When someone with bipolar traits commits suicide, that act is not reducible to reductive ideas of momentary mental spurs like experiencing lows after manic episodes. And this applies to any mental disorder, which, if you don't know, lows are periods of time that happen after manic or hypomanic episodes in the case of bipolar disorder. What I'm trying to say is that mental health is not understood pretty well in the West, and I want to check if I'm recording. Yes, I am. Okay. Like, it's such a pearl. It's such a pearl when I'm able to have a good flow while recording, so I would have been pretty sad if I lost that, if I wouldn't have been recording right now. So yeah, let's continue. What I'm trying to say is that mental health is not understood pretty well in the West. We often look at mental afflictions like we look at viral infections. Oh, this person did X because he was afflicted with neatly categorized condition Y. Here, take this pill and it will cure you. The underlying nets and plots that do beget these conditions, and as the conditions themselves are integrated into them, and the even more fundamental aspects of reality which beget everything are often ignored. The spiritual side of the mind is often ignored. You cannot reduce it to the lows. So going back. I'm also not saying there wasn't any low there, but to reduce it to the low is just poor analysis. To say otherwise is a poor analysis of the human mind and a naive characterization of Etika's character and motivations. And that would be even more stupid considering we can read this situation pretty well, especially when his last video is being truly held to scrutiny. Also, he had manic episodes in the past, and it's safe to assume lows too. He didn't commit suicide then. It makes sense he wanted to remove himself from this world at the sight of these very important individuals being away. Loneliness can be very sad, and even more so if you're not used to it. But if Etika had so many people that loved him, how could he feel like he has nobody? He was talking like he reached out but was turned down. Desmond was turned down in many ways. It makes you think about the shallowness of relationships and society as a whole. It wasn't just the fans that clown on him. The whole thing is way more personal. But I'm not trying to say that these people killed him. I'm not coming from the angle of pushing responsibility onto others in ways that they don't deserve. I'm also not trying to take away responsibility from others' actions. If someone was truly there to make Etika understand his spiritual potential and not look at him like a weirdo for being right, then he would have seen hope. Here's the thing, you have to understand that if Etika was ever uplifting and inspiring to you... Oh, by the way, I hate when weird people are shunned just for being weird. That's one of the stupidest things that humanity does. Anyway, let's continue. Here's the thing. I mean, not anyway, because this is important. Let's continue. Here's the thing. You have to understand that if Etika was ever uplifting and inspiring to you, it's because these characteristics pinpoint to a higher spiritual potential and deeper experiences. These deeper experiences don't just yield funnies and ha-has. They also yield things that can make you uncomfortable. True things that we push under the carpet. When these people have these experiences, when these people that have these experiences take action and talk about them, they are often ridiculed and abandoned. Also, for every light, there is a shadow. In the way to understanding, horribly painful obstructions can occur. In the way to understanding, horribly painful obstructions can occur. Not everything deep is also pretty. Maybe a comma works here. But the deepest nature of reality, which is love, is, and that is the core of this video. What I want for people to draw, what I want is for people to draw the right conclusions from this, which mainly are. Etika was having profound spiritual revelations. While some of the things he said were not true, that's only human, and I don't agree with him 100%, but that's perfectly alright. However, his message is not gibberish. It means something that can only be felt. Friendship can be shallow. Who would have ever thought? Even if you're popular, if the people are shallow, they will turn on you. You know, this sort of work can be meshed, but they refer to different things. Like this refers to more parasocial stuff, and this refers to friendship, which is, they are different. Okay. There are more lessons that we can extrapolate from this, but for now, here you have 3. I should have tried to reach him. I would have told Desmond that it's worth going on, and I would have loved to be his friend. It's in the past now. It's water under the bridge. But as the water goes on, it also passes under a bridge that was built between us, even though we didn't meet. A bridge so strong that not even the day you jumped from that other bridge could demolish it. And the insights go on. The things we learned from this reality, that it's really about building bridges. It's about finding them. It's about recognizing that they are, and they've always been there, within reach, closer than your own breath. Recognizing where they come from, that which is, that which breeds, that which loves. There were many times when loneliness made me depressed, paradise lost. During a lot of these times, I thought of Etika, saying to myself, is that what you felt, Desmond? The me who already knew how loneliness feels said that so many times. There were times I thought of suicide for various reasons. When thinking of suicide and my thoughts pendulumed toward Desmond, I was roughly saying to myself, it's what you did, I wouldn't be alone. There were also many times I feared death. When death came to my mind as a thought, I often thought of Etika and my fear of death was diminishing, saying roughly to myself, it wouldn't be that bad joining you, Desmond. I looked at him like a kind older brother who went to the parts of the forest I was scared of, giving me comfort in knowing he explored them first, while at the same time wishing he was alive. And when I watched his last streams, I would feel that fire well up inside of me again. The courage and homeliness of a friend that is my kindred spirit. Brother, wasn't it enough that I'm kind of affected right now. There's also my classic stuttering anyway. But I'm okay. I mentioned earlier that I don't feel so good, but I'm okay, The obstacle is the way, as Marcus Aurelius said. And I feel very grateful to be alive. Okay, so the courage and homeliness. Oh no, I'm not. Again? Okay, homeliness of a friend that is my kindred spirit, of a brother from another mother. A brother I could relate to when it comes to our lights, but also our shadows, such as mental illness. Now I am able to feel the self-sufficiency from within that does not rely on someone or something else through attachment. That fundamental peace from within that relinquishes the fear of death and anything. I wish he would have stayed here so he could have learned the same thing. And now there's a reason I can't lose. There's a reason I want to keep on fighting. What sucks is that Etika thought he did something wrong because he challenged deeply etched norms. He blamed himself in the end. By the way, my dog is currently here next to me, so if you hear some things, that's her. Oh, she's going outside. Okay, baby. Alright, so he blamed himself in the end. The fact that he was willing to take responsibility really means he's mature. But he blamed himself for things that are not wrong. That made me so angry so many times. The fact that he didn't understand just how amazing he is. The fact that he actually believed lowly of himself. I'm stuttering a lot right now. It's true that he made mistakes, as we all do. Like, I stutter a lot during recording, but right now I'm extra just... I'm a bit... but I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm alright. It's true that he made mistakes, as we all do. But Desmond thought lowly of... No, I really am okay. But Desmond thought lowly of himself for things he wasn't in the wrong for. How can someone truly claim to have been his friend if Desmond felt like that while you were supposedly his friend? But I already made the case for that part. I want to bring the conclusion to love, not to a cycle of blaming. And love, to me, is synonymous with reality itself. Existence is love itself, and it expresses itself in many different ways. Some are more pleasant than others, but fundamentally they all rest on the shoulders of love. That's why I love everyone. Many individuals are probably going to throw hissy fits at this video, particularly some of these friends I mentioned, telling me that I didn't know him personally and so I don't have a place in saying all these things. I didn't know him personally, or about fine details pertaining to his life, but I don't need to, because between me and Etika there was a bridge that even those who have known him for a lifetime did not have with him. But I'm not making this solely about Etika. The stars are to remind me about making some changes in this paragraph, but now I don't want to make the changes anymore. He is one of many similar instances, so many of them unheard of. Something to mention. The period of life in which I wrote this extensive script spans moments of truth-telling yet partial blindness to love, and moments of having opened my eyes to love fully once more. So if you notice flip-flops in temperament and levels of admonishment, now you know. It means I added paragraphs between paragraphs I already wrote a while ago, during periods in which I felt different. This script is reminiscent of life itself, going from blindness to seeing, from wrath to solace. So I won't alter these parts. And you should have seen the previous scripts I wrote years ago. Oh boy. But make no mistake, friends of Etika, for I do love you, because you are all love itself to me. And I'm sure Etika thought and thinks the same. I'm not saying this as lip service, so as to diffuse tension. I don't care how much people hate me, if that which they hate me for is something I believe in. And here I come, after another period of time which seemed long, to say that I understand how it feels like to dread, how it feels to dread the thought of pushing people away by making mistakes. Desmond suffered a lot because of it, and he himself felt that he did it. When something like this happens, the nature of the bonds and the gravity of the mistakes play their roles. But just because I acknowledge this phenomenon does not invalidate the fact that Desmond was abandoned for shallow reasons. Desmond was abandoned for shallow reasons. Now, we all do mistakes all the time because of the karmic structure we find ourselves in. Some mistakes are overblown, some are understated. What this basically means is life, because we're alive, you know. That in itself is part of the karmic structure. In this complex system we call existence, everything has a place. We'll have our deep and shallow points, but even shallow things rest on the shoulders of something deep and something deeper. People like Etika, although bound to this karmic structure, attempt to remind people of something deeper. Everything comes from absolute unity, which is quote-unquote the deepest point. Why quote-unquote? Because the word deep is simply a relative and misleading word, and unity simply is. In Taoism, unity is void that holds infinite potential. In our current world, where things seem not united, there are ways to act right and there are ways to act wrong. Remember that just like music, which is listened to simply for what it is, so is life. And here's the last part of this. Let's go. Desmond Amofah. Even though we never met, we connected. The memories of you make springs even better. I remember like it was yesterday. I know you understood, Desmond. It must have hurt a lot, but you weren't alone. No one is truly alone. We'll have each other even though we span periods of ignorance and antagonism toward each other. I'm here to say these things from the heart. Rest easy, for this is not just a letter, but also a candle, a will to improve, an expression of love, and an embrace. Ultimately, it simply is.